Hello everyone. In this lesson, we will be discussing the results section of your capstone project. This section covers course outcome number 3 this week by creating a labeled visualization of analyzed data aligned with the research question. Course outcome 4 is indicated by following best practices for written and oral professional communication. In your final draft of the results section, you will create visualizations that indicate how the data addressed the research question to demonstrate your achievement of course outcome 3. Your draft of your results section is a major step towards this goal, where you justify the method for data analysis used to address the research question. The focus of the results section is to present an analysis of aligned findings. So this is the data from your project as aligned with your research question and your methods. And this section addresses course outcome 4 regarding your communication skills as well. So what is in this section? The results section is really a core piece of your project, and the aim is to share your findings through visualizations of your data that include relevant data to address your research question, that are effective and that align with your data analysis method. So you're going to state the outcomes from the project and create visual representations of those findings. And an important piece in this is that the section is free from interpretation. So while it's tempting to go into what those results might mean, that it's important to save that piece for your discussion section. And for now, you're just focusing on reporting what was found. When you present that data, you might have raw data, which is just your straightforward numbers, perhaps the amounts, the values, or you might have a more qualitative set of data involving quotes, keywords, themes. And then you also have your process data, and this is where you have your averages and you've conducted a thematic analysis. Perhaps you have conducted statistical analyses, in which case you'd want to include information around the statistical significance, exact amounts of the p-value, your confidence intervals, or any other related statistical parameters. So again, this might be inferential statistics or descriptive. You might be reporting averages, or you might be conducting a specific statistical test, like a t-test, for example, depending on the structure of your study and the data that you are working with. Again, it's very important that all of these pieces are aligned. As you look at your project, in your introduction, you present your research question, which should align with your methods for data collection, and also your method for data analysis, and ultimately your data interpretation, which will arise in your discussion. The order of topics or components should align within each section as well. So if you're discussing part A and part B of your research question, then in the introduction, it would go A and then B, and in your methods section, you would discuss A and then B, and so on throughout the sections, maintaining that ordering in each section so that the audience can really follow along and know what to anticipate. The format for this section, again, is you're making sure to include your APA formatting, so any guidance on how the data visualizations are presented, such as labeling or descriptions, any of those that are indicated by that formatting, you want to make sure that you're adhering to. And make sure that you include any labels and information around what the visuals are, analyze the data aligned with your research question, and again, stay away from the interpretation pieces and just present the information that was found. And this is an important part because it allows the audience to see the data clearly and entertain their interpretations of the findings. Also, perhaps you might have subsection headers in there and descriptions as well, so really following that guidance on how to present those visualizations in a way that makes it clear on how they specifically answer your research question. You want to avoid repeating the represented data in the tables and charts and graphs within the text, so pick how you want to represent the data and do that in a single way, whatever way you think is most effective. So either in the text or in a graph or in a table, whichever is the best fit to represent the data, what the data indicate. You don't want to have repeats of the data showing up in a bunch of different ways because that can be confusing. And make sure, again, to cite those tables appropriately, label them appropriately, and then in your text, you can refer back to those tables. So for example, table 1 shows this, whereas table 2 shows this, and you can refer to those both in this section as well as later in your discussion section. And you might want to highlight areas of particular interest in these visualizations to call attention to those. An example of how the results section might look in a business plan might be a market analysis. So this looks a little different than if you were reporting for a scholarly research article. And in the business plan, you might be really looking at these different aspects of data and So you might be looking at what types of relevant businesses exist in this domain, how many of them, what are their financial returns, what are the trends in these businesses or specific themes. And again, just pulling that data that is relevant to your research question around why you are proposing the business that you're proposing, how these data support what you're proposing, and all of those important pieces. Here are some helpful references, and please reach out to your instructor with any questions.